I want to show you what these verses in the book of Habakkuk are all about. Remember that the book of Habakkuk, it's a very short book, but here's how it works. It's really just a conversation between the prophet Habakkuk and God. Habakkuk asks in the first part of chapter 1, God, why is it that you're just idly sitting by and not disciplining the people in Judah because of their sin? Then God responds with a very surprising answer. God responds by saying, I'm not sitting idle. I'm raising up the wicked Babylonians, and they're going to come and discipline the people in Judah and take them away as captives. Habakkuk hears this, and he is shocked and abhorred, and he's really struggling with God's answer. This is not the answer Habakkuk expected or looked for. This is rather shocking for him. And so he complains again to God. And that's what this section in the book is really all about. Let's take a closer look at this section. Now, it's important to realize that Habakkuk, he's not against the idea of God disciplining the Jews. In fact, that's why he started his complaint in the first place. God, people are just being so wicked, and why won't you do anything? Habakkuk is pro-discipline. But the thing that in this section here that really gets him upset, it's not that God would discipline the Jews. It's how on earth could you discipline the Jews like that? Habakkuk, his logic kind of goes like this. If God is holy and pure, sure, he can discipline his people, but surely he wouldn't do that with a nation that's more wicked than Judah, would he? And so Habakkuk, in this section, he's trying to wrap his mind around this idea. First, if God is holy, and if he's pure, and if he can't let evil go unpunished. But what's confusing is that God is promising to raise up the wicked Babylonians. Doesn't that count as letting evil and wickedness go unpunished? So Habakkuk is trying to figure these things out, and so he complains again to God. Let's take a look here in verses 12 and 13. In verse 12, he appeals to God's holiness. He says that God, my Holy One, are you not from everlasting, O Lord my God, my Holy One? He realizes God is eternal and God is holy. But he's realizing, but God, you're saying that you have ordained them as a judgment. Them, that's the Babylonians that God had just been describing. So this is not making sense. And so as Habakkuk thinks about this, God ordained them and he's established them for the tool God would use to reprove the people of Judah. This doesn't make sense. And he's saying, again, God, you have pure eyes than to see evil. You can't look at wrong. How can you use Babylon? And he makes another pretty bold accusation. Why do you idly look at traitors? And why do you remain silent? What a charge against God. God, how dare you sit idly by? Remember that this is not the first time that Habakkuk has accused God of being idle. All the way back in verse 3, he talks about this. Why do you idly look at wrong? And so then again, here he is accusing God of just being idle, being lazy. How can you be idle as Babylon comes? And how can you be silent? And again, it's not the idea, his problem is not that God's disciplining the Jews, it's that someone that's more wicked than the Jews is what God is using. Notice this, remain silent when the wicked swallows up the man more righteous than he. See, that's his problem. It's someone who's, the wicked is being used, the Babylonians, they're more wicked than the Jews are. So God, how can you use them to discipline us? Here's if I could sum it up. God, if you're holy, how on earth can you use people who are really wicked to discipline your own people? And so to kind of highlight how wrong this is, Habakkuk's going to spend the next couple of verses And in these verses, he's really trying to show how vulnerable the Jews are. And he's going to use a fishing metaphor. That's actually the fishing metaphor runs through the rest of the chapter. He says it's kind of like this. Just as the fish of the sea, just as they are vulnerable and they have no protector, God, you made us vulnerable. And it's like we have no protector against Babylon. You know, in the sea, it's kind of every fish for himself. There's no organized protector for the fish from the fishermen. The fishermen just come, they take what they want, what they need, what they can catch, and then they leave. Habakkuk's saying, you make mankind. You're making us like the fish of the sea. You're making us like the things that have no ruler. You're making us like people who have no one to protect them. You have made us vulnerable. And then in the rest of the verses, he's talking about how Babylon comes and it's like they're the fishermen. They're the evil fishermen. Listen for all of the fishing metaphors. Talks about a hook and nets, and again, net and drag net and net. Do you hear how Babylon is like the fishermen coming to harvest all the fish, and God, you made us to be like the fish with no protector, no ruler. What's interesting is that the Babylonians kind of stole the barbaric practices of the Assyrians. The Assyrians, when they would take captive people, they would make a hole in the lip, and they'd put a hook through the captive's lip and put a string on it and pull the captives along with that string. That's actually how the Babylonians would sometimes bring their captives back. Some think that the Babylonians dragged their captives away as well in a net. There's this stone relief, Babylonian stone relief, that depicts one of their gods dragging captives away in a large net. And so perhaps that's what Habakkuk has in mind. God showed him this is what's going to happen. And he's saying, how can you use Babylon? They're more wicked than we are, and yet you're using them to come and take us. This is disturbing stuff. The Babylonians had this way of kind of being arrogant. It's like they sacrifice to their net. They make offerings to their net. They're worshiping their own strength. You saw this back in verse 11, where God was describing the Babylonians, and it said their own might is their God. Kind of a similar idea here. They're worshiping themselves and their own tools of the trade. And what happens is by these tools of the trade, they get rich. In other words, when a fisherman goes into the sea, he catches fish, he becomes rich, lives in luxury. When Babylon's going to come like a fisherman and take all the food and all the captives, they're going to live in luxury because they get all the loot. And Habakkuk is just disturbed by this idea. How can God do this? And is God really just going to let this happen? In verse 17, is he, the Babylonian, is he going to just keep on emptying his net and mercilessly killing nations forever? God, are you just going to sit and idly watch as this nation that's more wicked than us, as they come and they destroy people, especially your own people? This is just beyond what Habakkuk can understand. And so he's puzzled by this. And we move on to chapter 2, and this section really ends with Habakkuk. He's had his say. He's had his complaint. And so now he's like, I'm just going to listen. I've had my say. God, what are you going to respond? He says, I will take my stand at my watch post, station myself on the tower. Prophets often were called the watchmen. They were the one waiting. And so he's like, I'm going to stand on my post, and I'm going to look out to see what he will say to me. Habakkuk saying, I've had my say. God, what you going to respond with? By the way, I actually think there's something good about this. Habakkuk realizes that he's, I think, called God made some pretty strong accusations against God. You've been idle. He says, how long will you not listen? How long will you not save? And now it's his time to listen to God. But actually, That's a really good approach. You know, sometimes God acts in ways that we don't understand, that do not make sense to us, similar to what was happening with Habakkuk. And when that happens, I think it's okay for us to pour out our heart to God, but then we've got to wait and listen to what God says in response. In other words, when it comes to the confusing ways of God, we have to allow God to shape our beliefs about God. Instead of us saying, God, this is what you're like and I don't like it, we can pour out our hearts to God, but then at the end of the day, like Habakkuk, we've got to say, okay, God, you tell me, you shape my perspective about who you are, and even perhaps show me how I've got to answer for my complaints. And God will answer Habakkuk, and Habakkuk will come around to see things God's way. All right, that's the book of Habakkuk here, the end of chapter 1 and the start of chapter 2. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you again next time.